Welcome to The Explainer. Today, with some incredible insights from Custom Case Coach, we are going to tackle the single skill that really separates the good case interview candidates from the truly great ones. And that is, of course, frameworking. Now look, it's a skill that takes time to master, for sure, but getting it right is absolutely fundamental to your success.
All right, so let's just cut to the chase. What's the one thing, the million-dollar question that's on every single candidate's mind? When you really break it all down, what's the one skill that consistently turns out to be the biggest hurdle in any case interview?
And the answer, 9 times out of 10, is structured thinking. Now, you'll hear it called frameworking, but what it really is, at its core, is your ability to take a messy, complex problem and just untangle it in a logical, organized way. If you can master this one thing, everything else, and I mean everything, from calculating a market size to just answering fit questions, it all becomes so much easier.
So here's how we're going to break it all down for you. We'll start with a really crucial mindset shift. Then we'll define our starting point, and then we'll get into building the plan itself. From there, we'll check out 2 different ways to create a structure, and we'll finish up by giving you a super powerful toolkit for those weird, unconventional cases.
All right, first things first, we have got to tackle a huge, and I mean huge, misconception right off the bat. If you're one of those people who thinks frameworking is about memorizing a bunch of pre-built templates, we need to completely rewire that thinking, starting right now.
Okay, just look at the difference here. The myth, the common trap, is that you just need to memorize a few standard frameworks for things like profitability or growth. That is completely the wrong way to go about it. The real mindset shift is from memorizing to creating. It's about learning how to think in a structured way so you can build a plan that's tailor-made for whatever problem gets thrown at you.
And listen, this is why this is so important. This isn't just some party trick for an interview. Learning to think this way pays off in massive ways in your professional life, and, you might be surprised, even in your personal life. It's a foundational skill for making clear, effective decisions. Okay, so where do we even begin this journey to thinking in a more structured way? Well, it all starts with one simple, totally unbreakable rule. You can't ever forget this.
And that rule is simple. Objective, objective, objective. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter how amazing your analysis is, right? If you're solving the wrong problem, you've got the wrong answer. Period. End of story. Before you write down a single thing for your framework, you have to be 100% crystal clear on what you're actually trying to solve.
And you've got to understand this on 2 levels. First, there's the primary objective. That's the literal question. Should we enter this market? But just as important, you need to dig for the secondary objective. What does the client really want? What are their hidden goals? Are they trying to grow revenue, or is profit what really matters? Is there a specific target, like say 10% growth in 2 years? You need to know both to build a plan that's actually relevant.
Okay, so now let's talk about how this all-important objective actually builds into your framework. It's time to stop thinking about frameworks as some, abstract idea, and start seeing them for what they really are. They're blueprints for action. Here's the absolute key takeaway. A framework is not a checklist of stuff to talk about. It is a mini project plan. It is your unique, tailored approach to solving the specific problem that's right in front of you. It's the actual plan of attack you would present to a client before you even started the work.
Let's use an analogy. Think about it like a real consulting project, okay? The case prompt you get, that's your project introduction. Then, the clarifying questions you ask, that's basically that first client meeting where you get all the critical details. And the framework you present, that is the project plan, where each of your buckets is a separate work stream that a whole team could go off and solve on its own.
Or, hey, here's another way to look at it. We've all been there, right? Imagine a professor assigns an essay on the Odyssey. The first thing you do is ask some clarifying questions to narrow down the topic. Well, your framework is like that detailed outline you'd show the professor before you start writing. It's the proof that you have a logical, structured argument, maybe analyzing a character's actions, their thoughts, and their reputation, all to support your main point. See, it's the plan, not the final product.
All right, so we get what a framework is. We get why the objective is everything. But how do you actually create the buckets? When you're under pressure and the clock is ticking? Let's look at 2 really practical ways to do this.
So path number 1 is what we call the structured down approach. This is where you hear the prompt and your brain immediately jumps to big, high-level questions like, okay, first, is this market even attractive? And second, can our company actually win here? You start with those big questions and then you fill in the details underneath. The other path is the build-up approach.
Here, your mind just gets flooded with a ton of specific questions like, how big is the market? What are our competitors doing? What are we really good at? You just jot them all down, and then you group them into logical, themed buckets.
So which one's better? What's the right answer? Well, here's the thing. There isn't one. Neither approach is better or worse. The best path really depends on the specific case and just your own personal thinking style. You can even mix and match them. The most important thing is to just trust your gut in those first 20 seconds. If big buckets pop into your head, go structure down. If a whole laundry list of questions appears, then go with the build-up approach.
Okay, let's bring it all home by equipping you with a toolkit for actually doing this. And we're going to start with probably the single biggest mistake that candidates make when they try to explain their framework.
This right here is what just saying words sounds like. A candidate will say, okay, so first I'm going to look at the market. I'll look at size, growth, and competition. Then I'll look at the company. This is not a plan. This is just a vocabulary list. Your client already knows these business terms exist. What they're paying you for is a plan of attack.
Okay, now look at the difference. This is a game changer. This is an objective-driven plan. Instead of just saying market, your first bucket is a question. First, I need to figure out if this market is even attractive. Instead of company, it's second, is this market attractive to us? Can we actually win here? And finally, third, can we really pull this off? Do we have the people, the money, and a real plan to get in? Now that is a logical, actionable plan.
Now, what about those really tricky cases, right? The ones that don't fit into a nice, neat box. This is your toolkit. So, for example, if a nonprofit asks you how to increase donations, a standard profitability framework is useless, but you could use a past, present, future structure. You could say, first, let's understand our past donation trends. Second, what does our current donor engagement look like? And third, what future initiatives could actually drive growth? Concepts like cost-benefit or internal versus external are also fantastic starting points when you feel stuck. And you know what? It's just as important to know what not to do. I want you to think of these as like illegal buckets. Just avoid them. Having a separate bucket for risks makes it seem like your other buckets are risk-free, which is, of course, never true. A solutioning bucket doesn't make sense. Your whole framework is the plan to find the solution. And things like process steps or really vague buckets like other, they just show a lack of sharp, structured thinking. And let's circle back to why this is all so valuable, because it's so much more than just passing an interview. As this quote really shows, mastering this skill gives you a mental model for making better, clearer decisions about pretty much everything in your life, from big career moves to personal choices. It's really about bringing structure to complexity. So the takeaway here is really simple. Structured thinking is a superpower. It really is. It lets you build these custom plans for any problem that comes your way. And that leaves us with one final thought. Take a second and think about a complex decision in your own life. How could a clear, structured framework help you find the right answer?